guys, welcome to Baby's First Podcast, brought to you by Fair. I'm Traci Stumpf, and this is Ruchi Gupta. Oh my God, I'm very excited about today. I feel like I always get really excited, but today's like super excited because it's just us. It's just us best friends.
Us, Traci.
It's just us doctors.
Mama doctor and
doctor. Well, before we dive into today's episode, like, how are you? What's new?
I am good. I'm doing well. It's been nice. The weather's great. It's starting fall, but not quite. It's perfect. How are you? How's life with you and your sweet, cute, precious daughter?
She's so cute. She's good. She's in a little bit of a sleep regression, so I feel like a little bit tweaked out, but It's good. I feel like we always kind of like go over COVID at the beginning of these episodes because it's, so topical.
Yeah.
What are you seeing right now in your office with COVID and babies?
It's back to school for all the
Right.
families whose kids are going actually back to in-person school with masks on. It's been interesting because a lot of these kids, because they're not vaccinated, they're getting COVID. And now we're seeing an increase in the number of COVID infections in kids. And it is what is it. We were expecting it, right? They're going to go back. They're going to be together. They don't have the vaccine. And so we're seeing higher numbers in kids. But the good news is that they are still not getting very sick, right? So
okay, that's really good. The symptoms are just like typical cold symptoms.
Yeah, typically, yes. Very mild. You can handle it at home most of the time, even in our hospital. We're seeing a lot more kids in the emergency room, but we are not hospitalizing many of them, at least with COVID. Other things.
And then what about babies?
Yeah, so babies still, we haven't really seen a huge increase, especially if they're not going to daycare. Once they start going and being exposed, you're going to see more. But I am super, super hopeful that this vaccine is around the corner. I know I'm always trying to be an optimist, but they said October, worst case November, but hopefully if we can get our younger ones vaccinated.
They're saying 5 to 11, right? Around October.
Yes,
that's really good because I feel like that's like the most germy age group.
Like
they feel like the petri dish of it all.
You're right. Because they're like touching, and picking their nose and rubbing it.
Yeah, they're in it. They're really in it. Well, that's so encouraging because I'm such like a news junkie. I consume news from like all of the different, spectrums of the world. And I mean, my occupation is media, so like I understand how much they hype it up, but I sure do believe the hype when it comes to the babies and kids and the fear tactics, No,
I think people just need to get vaccinated. We need to kick this, we need to move on with our lives. And I know there's other variants coming in that really scare people. And, I honestly, when we talk about this in the hospital, it may end up becoming like the flu, right? There's different strains every year, and you're going to have to get a shot, that really hits on what strains people think are coming out. I mean, that's how influenza is. Every year you have to get a shot because it mutates and there's different strains. But, we've done a great job with the vaccine. It's effective. This whole mRNA, the way it's made is really unique. And, we've learned a lot. And hey, look, we got Zoom now. We got like hybrid work experiences and work-life balance. And so we just need to get people vaccinated, get through this. And then I'm sure we'll figure out, what to do with these variants and how to do boosters and all of those pieces. But yeah.
Well, your calm, cool, collective attitude really.
I am still just glad kids can go to school.
Right.
They need to go back to school. I mean, my daughter started high school and it's really fun. I mean, it's so funny because like for years, kids are like, oh no, school, we got to go back to school. And for the first time, everyone's like, we get to go back.
Take me back. God, I feel that way too. I'm like, just put me in a car and take me somewhere. Like, well, I don't care where you drop me off, just get me out.
I know. So I don't want it to shut down again. I'm hopeful it won't if people get vaccinated and things still go in the right direction. So
if you guys are listening to this or watching this, and just take this as your sign to get vaccinated if you're not.
Yes.
Yeah. Dr. Ruchi Gupta said so.
I am very much begging you.
Yeah. so excited for today. I'm so excited and proud of you. You're our guest today. Dr. Ruchi Gupta is our guest on the Baby's First podcast, brought to you by FAIR, which is so exciting because you wrote a freaking book.
That's what I did during COVID. See, there's another positive.
Like, sometimes I find it hard to even like complete a book that I haven't written. And you sat down and you wrote an entire book.
Yes. Well, I did not write it by myself. I had an amazing co-author, Kristen Loberg, and I had this incredible team. I never do anything by myself. I don't know if anyone does, but I definitely do not. So it was a team of physicians, scientists, researchers, just smart people who write better than me. So a whole team got together. For the past 5 years, I've been writing this book, but we really got it over the finish line during COVID, when everybody had nothing else to do. So it worked out, but I'm really excited. I'm excited to share it with you, Traci, because it's so much of what we talk about. It's right here.
Yeah. Food. It's blurred out as if it's a bad word or something. It's called Food Without Fear.
And Food Without Fear. And,
break it down. What's the premise?
So, the whole reason we wrote this is because so many people have food conditions in the US. 85 million people are avoiding a food. And what happens, and I can say this because this is our fun show, but I'll be honest, like I would do the same thing probably. Adults especially eat a food, have a negative reaction, and then they're like, oh man, like I shouldn't be eating that food, right? For whatever reason, I have some food condition.
Define a negative reaction in that circumstance.
Yes. So what is a negative reaction? What are the most common things that can happen when you eat a food? And this is what we go through in this book, because if so many people are having negative reactions, how do you define it and figure it out? So we really go into food allergies and then food intolerances, sensitivities. We have a spectrum. We call it the food reaction spectrum, and it takes you through all the symptoms you could have and then what it may match up with. So example, yes, let's do an example. All right, so you eat a food and all of a sudden you break out in hives, and then you start feeling sick to your stomach, your throat feels like it's closing up a little, and then you throw up. What is it? See, we can play a game show here.
That's like a classic allergy to me.
Yay!
Okay, good.
So that I should have given you even more, because that's something that happens very rapidly. If I told you it happened immediately after you ate the food, you started getting the feeling. So that is a typical food allergic reaction. And a food allergy is immune mediated. That's what makes it a little different. It's your immune system attacking something it thinks is an invader, right? So it thinks this food coming into your body is going to hurt you. It's an invader, and it goes on attack. So immediately, so it's immune mediated. It's IgE immune mediated. And so when it goes on attack, it releases all these cytokines, things like histamine, which cause all these symptoms in your body. And so the symptoms can be what we talked about. Hives is really common. Vomiting is really common. Feeling like your throat is closing is common. Throwing up, I always said vomiting. Okay, cardiovascular. Sometimes you feel dizzy or lightheaded and you get a drop in blood pressure. Trouble breathing, especially if you have uncontrolled asthma, you can get asthma symptoms, wheezing, trouble breathing, tightening of the chest. And so all of these are true food allergy symptoms, and you may have an actual immune mediated condition. Okay, I'm going to give you another one. You ready?
Okay, I'm so ready.
Okay, you eat a food. And then 2-3 hours later, you start having some cramps and your stomach feels bloated. You may even have some diarrhea. You start feeling a little fogginess in your head. What is it?
That feels like just drama. That's an intolerance. Is that right?
What did you say?
It just feels a little dramatic. It feels like a gluten moment. Yeah.
Yes.
But I feel like you should still maybe avoid that, right? Or do you keep eating it until you build a tolerance? Because nobody likes you got to prioritize feeling good.
Yes. So it's also a terrible feeling, right? You feel miserable. Some people get migraines. A lot of times we this is called an intolerance, right? Or a sensitivity, a lot of people call it. And it happens when you eat certain foods. You mentioned gluten, which is very common. Another one is lactose, right? If you're lactose intolerant, you get all those GI symptoms, but you can really have it to so many different things. But what is happening in your body is it's not immune mediated. Your immune system's not attacking. Usually it's you lack an enzyme in your gut that breaks down that protein, right? So if you think about lactose intolerance, you're missing the lactase, but there are treatments. You can take a pill that has the enzyme in it. There are things you can do. So it's important to know if you have one of those things, and then how can you treat it so you can enjoy that food, because it's not easy to avoid gluten and everything, or lactose or milk and everything. So that's an intolerance. All right, ready for another one?
Can I ask you one question about that?
Yes.
What's the importance of having these foods in your diet? Like, to me, I don't do well with grains. So like when I eat grains, I feel like trash. Like I just don't. So I just avoid grains because it's easier for me to not feel good, as opposed to like eat quinoa. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So but like, should I incorporate this stuff in my diet, or is incorporating in your diet just because it's an easier life? Like, does that make sense? Am I articulating myself?
Makes a lot of sense. Yeah, this is great. Traci, you're asking very important questions. So did you take all grains out of your diet, or specific grains?
For the most part, all grains. Yeah. Just because it's not worth it to me.
Yeah. But do you think all grains do that to you?
Probably not, but the idea of an elimination diet makes me want to pull my hair out.
So this is what's really important. So if it's easy enough for you to take all grains out of your diet and you prefer that, but if you really want to know, different grains have different health properties, right? Like, so quinoa is good for you in many ways, and it has nutritional components to it. If you say, well, like I wouldn't mind some quinoa once in a while, or if you really like the taste of something, then, testing out different ones in small quantities and then, seeing if it does impact you may be beneficial, because you don't have to take so many things out of your diet. If it's no big deal, you've changed your lifestyle and you're happy doing that, you don't really need it in your diet, then that is also totally fine. I think my biggest thing is, living with a kid with food allergies, it is hard to avoid. But for intolerances, it's not like if you eat a little, you're going to have a big issue. So you're not having to avoid it to that degree. I guess I just want people to be able to eat as much as they can, and if that means you figuring out, okay, here's 10 grains. This one's my favorite, or I always used to like this, and it'd be nice if I could have this occasionally. Then it's good for you to know that, and to incorporate it back in.
So I guess grains is kind of like a lackluster one, but it's important for especially babies or little kids that's developing their stomachs to have like a full variety of food, right? So like if a mom gives her baby cow's milk and next thing you know, it's got like a little patch of something, what's the protocol for that? Because milk is important for babies. And you can't be scared out of drinking milk because of a little breakout.
Yes. And one big thing in this book is we have a whole resource guide for new parents. So how do you introduce foods to your baby? How do you do this whole early introduction thing we've talked about so many times with peanut products? But then what do you do about other foods? And to your point, something like milk, if it got introduced and you only got a little rash or, a little bit of a dry patch, those are things that it's important to continue it and work through it, because your body may have small reactions, and maybe minor sensitivities, but then if you take it out of their diet, we don't know if it would turn into something later, right? So if they're able to tolerate it, the symptoms aren't bad, talk to your pediatrician, go to an allergist, get tested, but don't just completely remove it if the symptoms are very mild or very minor, is what
because it's more beneficial to have a baby who can drink all milk product than it is to have just a little.
Yes.
This will go away.
Yes.
A milk allergy won't.
We totally talk. I mean, in this book, you will get so much of that information. And I think that is so critical for new parents, because it is our automatic reaction, right? If you see anything, you're like, oh my gosh, take it out. Something must be wrong.
It's so scary, because you're conditioned to think that it's an allergy, not an intolerance, or not just like a small reaction. And the word allergy is so terrifying. Like
Yes.
to think that you're allergic to something that, and then EpiPens and anaphylaxis and like all of these like scary big words pop out at you, and you're just like, avoid the milk, avoid the peanuts, live in a bubble.
Yes. And
Yeah.
we do not want that. And that's what, I ended up doing, because back when my daughter was born, it was not the recommendation to introduce early. And so, now she has all those allergies. And so it's very important, my personal mission to try to, prevent it in other babies, so that like yours, so they don't deal with that, because it is a lifelong thing and you are worried about that in everything you eat. And even if it's just a little bit, so you have to be incredibly cautious for the rest of your life. So very, very important. We're learning more with FAIR. We're doing a big study, the SEED study. We're going to introduce 8 foods into babies' diets. It's one of our biggest research trials to date, and see if we can prevent all foods. But for new parents right now, introduce diet diversity, like let your baby taste foods, just like Traci did, just have fun with it and enjoy introducing new flavors and new types of foods, and both for them texture wise and flavor wise. It's just important to get as much food early on into them.
Can you do allergy late introduction? Like, how old's your daughter now?
15.
Is she too old? Like, once you've crossed, like, what threshold can you not go back to introducing allergens and kind of building that tolerance?
Yeah, I mean, she is allergic. And so now what we're doing is we're watching her numbers, and they're starting to drop a little, but not to the point of, being fine with it. But what we're hoping for is now there's treatments, and we talk about that a lot in the book too, what's happening. And that's another reason it's so important to go get diagnosed, or it's so important to, in the book, we have a quiz you take, kind of not the one I was giving you, but talking about your own symptoms and what happens. And it helps you narrow down what you may have. And then you can go to the spectrum and kind of look at your symptoms and look at different conditions. And so when you go to your doctor, you'll be able to have a better conversation with them, and you'll already know, like, what are our management strategies, what are potential treatments. But for food allergies, what's exciting is there's a lot coming, right? So we have one FDA approved one for peanut, Palforzia, OIT, oral immunotherapy, but we have a bunch more like in clinical trials that are so close. We have the patch, which is like epicutaneous, it goes through the skin. We have slit, sublingual immunotherapy, and then we have a bunch of biologics that are shot.
Is that just like a constant stream of nuts? Like, what is it?
So OIT, oral immunotherapy, you're eating the food, right? In small amounts and going up.
Microdosing, if you will.
What's that?
Microdosing?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And that's what sublingual is. It's even microer, right? So you're very small amounts and going up. And that's what the patch is, right? It's going through the skin. The biologics are a little different. So, your immune pathway, it just kind of knocks out one of the steps so that the cascade doesn't happen, right? So the biologics are taking away a step in your immune pathway to stop that cascade. So those work a little differently, but those are injections, but they're starting to be very promising. So
that's cool. That's really cool.
What would you rather do, a shot or eating the food?
I would rather do some food sampling for sure. Anything to, it seems less invasive. Yeah. Do you find that parents have fears of other things when the word allergy is brought up? Like, I've heard in so many cases, not so many cases, but I have a friend who has a son who she thinks he's allergic to X, Y, and Z, and because of that, she's postponed a lot of his baby vaccines because she just thinks because he's allergic to milk is what she thinks, like he might be allergic to the preservatives in the vaccines or the vaccine itself. Is that a common thing, or is that just a one-off?
No, and this is where, I can't emphasize enough how important it is to get to an allergist, because if and I think this is what so many people do. And, I've been guilty of it myself, Googling something and seeing what comes up. And then you see all these things that could be associated. And And then you get worried because it's your baby and it's the most important thing in your life. And all makes sense, but it's important to do it with medical professionals who actually know, right? So if you have an allergy or you think your kid has an allergy, you need to make sure they have that allergy because you don't want to take that food out of their diet. It is not a good idea. So get to an allergist, figure out if that's truly the allergy. And then if that is, and it's not the preservative, do not, postpone vaccines. Like it is, there's so much literature out there around vaccines. And I think it's so important to talk to your doctor, really understand the research, from medical professionals, because, vaccines are there for a reason, right? They're to protect your kid from all these things that we used to see that are so detrimental. And so that is the end goal is, protection.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. I just feel that once the word allergy is introduced into somebody's vernacular, it's downhill from there because there's just so much fear around it. And that's why I think this book is so great because you're kind of you're removing the fear from all of this stuff and being like, don't be scared of peanuts. Don't be the person on the plane that has eliminated nut products for the entire cabin. You got to get a handle on this. And I think this is really brilliant, really wonderful.
Well, the goal of the book is to help those people who really don't understand this. And it takes you through the science. It takes you through the reasons why, that everyone wants to know that. It takes you through prevention. It takes you through treatment. And it takes you through so many different conditions that you could have. And so the goal is food freedom. And if you do truly have a food allergy, you do have to take the precautions, but you need to know that that's what it is, right? And then you do need to know how to use an epinephrine auto-injector. You do need to know how to stay safe in your environment. And you need to know when treatments are coming out, because that is, there is hope now, finally. We do have something. I mean, I am really hoping that I can get my daughter treated to at least be able to manage it and have, some small amounts before she goes to college, that's the dream and the hope, because all our kids are going to be on their own dealing with this in places where they don't know.
What's a day like with somebody with extreme food allergies?
Yeah, I mean, it's challenging. I mean, she's grown up now and she's her own advocate, and she, is in this whole world of wanting to support other kids with food allergies. So she's really very responsible on her own, and it gets better. So for families with young kids with food allergy, really help empower them, I would say, and get them to be their own advocates. One study we did, I always talk about this because we always talk about the anxiety, the fears, the negative side of food allergy, which it is. But in this one study we did, we asked kids, did anything positive come of your food allergy? And they said they can advocate for themselves better and others. And they have more empathy because they understand what other people are going through with other conditions. And they eat healthier. So I guess those are three really good things we would all want in our children. So it's challenging, right? Because it's every meal, every day. But I also feel for, when you mention your friend with milk's an important one. It's in so much.
Right.
And eggs, and wheat and soy, and some of these foods that are even harder to avoid than peanuts and tree nuts. So yeah, it's a lot.
It is a lot. Do you feel that if you would have introduced these foods earlier to your daughter, she wouldn't have had these?
Yeah,
really?
Yes. I mean, I think
not to mom guilt you by any means, but I'm just wondering if that's like, I guess my question is like, when does somebody she seems like she's very allergic to all of this stuff. So just because you would have introduced it earlier to her, she would have built up that tolerance. Is that
so that's exactly what the study showed, is kids like her who are high risk, severe eczema. If we would have potentially introduced it, in that first year of life, we could have prevented peanut allergy. I'm not saying 100%, that's never 100%, but that is what the data is showing. So because your immune system then recognizes it, when it's developing. And so it's important. And if you get it, there's this theory that if you get it through your gut, if she would have eaten it, versus she may have been exposed in her eczematous skin, then it turns it into like a food allergy. So yeah, so there's a lot. I mean, the other big important thing is, understanding that science is always changing and research is always changing. So, the mom guilt was there. The New York Times even said I was slapping myself on my wrist for not doing this, like in their article, which is published for life, which will guilt me for life. But the problem is we didn't know, right? And that wasn't the recommendation. And so do your best. And I know every parent is doing their best. Every caregiver is doing their best. That's like our motto, right? We do the best we can, but at least do your best to understand the data that's out there, talk to your allergist, find someone you really like and trust, in your physician, so that you can get the right answers. And read the book, because the book will help tell you how to go about it.
So just to go back for a second, you're saying that you think your daughter got peanut on her and that developed the allergy?
Oh, okay. So this is an interesting theory. So it's called the dual allergen hypothesis. And what it's saying is if you have eczematous skin, so broken skin, so your skin barrier is compromised and you were exposed to the protein, the peanut protein. So say there was nut dust. There's always nut dust in the air. We ate nuts when she was little. My son loved peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. So if it gets in through her skin or through her broken skin barrier, then your immune system attacks it in a different way. And it may cause your immune system to find that to be dangerous, right? That protein, versus getting it in through your gut first. And then it goes into your stomach, and then it takes you down the normal immune pathway. So it's a theory. It's not 100%.
That feels like a race against the clock just to eat peanut butter before it sheds on you.
It sheds on you. I know. I've had one of my colleagues, she's like, nobody told me that. And, I was just nursing and eating nuts on my baby, because that was such a good, healthy snack for moms. And so, yes. So another thing, if your kid has eczematous skin, be careful with exposing them to nuts, even though we don't
eczema on your skin, right?
Eczema. Eczema. Eczematous. Sorry.
Doctor words.
Doctor words.
But also, to your credit, I mean, I'm very new to this and you're a doctor and you've been a mom for a while, but feeding a baby with eczema, allergen foods is very scary. It's very, so I feel like you did all of the right things. Even with the research out today, I know they say the more eczema they have, the earlier you should introduce, but 15 years ago, that was anything but the case. They were saying avoid everything.
Traci, you're so good for me.
Yeah, no, I'm just
all the time. No,
I just feel like you're right. Everything's always changing, and to put any blame on yourself is bananas.
But so for people out there with babies with eczematous skin or eczema on their skin,
we all know what it means now.
Please, see an allergist, because they can introduce it in the office, and then you do not have to be fearful of introducing it at home. But the other thing I will tell you is, in a study we did and others have followed up with, babies don't seem to have that severe of a reaction. So typically babies tend to get hives and they throw up. Those are the two most common things that happens in babies. They don't usually have trouble breathing or the drop in blood pressure or all of that happening so rapidly. So that's important to keep in mind, right? Because it is scary when you hear about, this is life-threatening and kids can stop breathing and all this stuff. But what we've seen from babies is the most common things that happen. They have milder reactions. So they have hives and they have vomiting. And hopefully you're feeding them just a little bit and then waiting and nothing. And then you feed them a little bit more, because the reactions will happen usually very quickly, within the first 10 to 15 minutes. So just slowly, small amounts. And if your baby is high risk, go do it in your allergist's office,
Right.
that's very important. I've had patients do it in our waiting rooms. They'll just bring it and they're like, we're just gonna sit here and feed our baby.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I did it on Zoom with you. I have a friend who did it in their pediatrician's parking lot. Like, I get it.
Yeah.
I'm just like remembering back to like when I was about to feed Lois peanuts for the first time. I was doing all my like mom MDing, and there was an article that was like, put it on her cheek first to see if she responds badly to it. But that feels so wrong now.
No,
the internet is so
you
dark.
don't need to. Some people think that, but the problem is if she just gets irritated by food on her, it might just like irritate her, and
Right.
it may not be, and then you don't do it. So, just a tiny bit, we say like on their lip, let them lick it, and that's what you did, right? It was beautiful. You have a video of it. I think the video is out there somewhere. Everyone should watch your video. Traci,
like, comment, subscribe.
Peanut butter to Lois. Yeah.
Yeah. And then once you introduce an allergen like that to a baby, how often do you keep it in their diet?
So important. So we say 2 teaspoons of like watered down peanut butter, right? So it would be peanut butter with water or with breast milk or with formula or with applesauce, just to make it not as sticky. And then 2 teaspoons of that at least 3 times a week, if you can keep it in their diet as the recommended amount. Yeah. Don't do one and done.
Yeah. And then how old is this baby, this hypothetical baby we're talking about?
This hypothetical baby, if they're high risk, we need to start them earlier. So I would get to the allergist and start somewhere between 4 and 6 months. If they're not high risk, you can start like 2nd or 3rd, 4th food after you start feeding. So 6 months-ish is a good time period to start. And then just keep it in their diet. Usually babies love it. Didn't Lois love it?
Oh, loves. I mean, she like goes crazy over cottage cheese and broccoli. So like peanut butter was a real treat. God, I can't stress, as a new mom, I cannot stress how important this book / manual to allergies is. Like this stuff is, there's so much fear in raising a baby. There just is. Like from the second you get pregnant to bringing them home, and then every single day I keep relating my experience being a mom to whack-a-mole. Like once you figure something out, something else pops up, and like the allergy world is such a big mole, and to be able to whack that one down within the first 4 months is just, I feel so lucky that I've had you through my whole parenting journey. No, seriously. And like now I feel lucky for the world because they get to have you on their desk at all times. Like this stuff is so important. And I just think it's so cool that you've made it so accessible to every single person.
It's very, very kind of you, Traci. You're going to make me cry. But
I mean it.
I mean, the goal is to empower people. So,
yeah,
you need to know, right? Don't just be fearful of food. Don't just take foods out of your diet, just really educate yourself and know. And I think, knowledge is power. And the goal of this book is to give you that power, to be able to live a fuller life, eating what you can and knowing, what you have and what you have to avoid, and then how to manage it. And hopefully, like I said, there's hope for not only food allergies, but all these food conditions. I mean, science is moving at a pretty good speed right now. And we're hoping, there will be more we can do, because this whole epidemic of taking all these foods out of your diet and not being able to eat stuff, I mean, this is really new. And this is not, how we want to live our lives. So that's the goal. And I really appreciate it. Yeah. And it's, I also read it. I went into a studio and spent 8 days reading it and getting yelled at for making noises or my stomach grumbling while I was trying to read it. So please, like, if you need to just listen to it, it's on Audible, it's on iTunes.
I would recommend doing both, because it's always nice to have like the hardcover book to be able to like highlight and go back and reference. But then there's also something really nice about getting it in your ears, like just like having somebody be like step by step reading it to you.
Yes. And
I recommend the double dose without fear.
Traci. No, and also I want to mention, please go to the website. It's foodwithoutfearbook.com, because we have tons of resources on the website as well.
That's awesome.
anyone who is trying to figure this out. So please go to the website and take the quiz on the website. Look at the spectrum on the website. It's a lot of fun, and get all the resources that you want, and be in touch with us. We're happy to help. I mean, this is our mission, is to help you be empowered.
Foodwithoutfearbook.com.
So awesome. Let's do it.
I think we should do a giveaway. I think we should do a book and audio book giveaway.
Yes.
Are you down with that?
I am so down with that.
Everybody go over to Babies First by Fair on Instagram and leave a comment on the last picture, which is a picture of Ruchi's book, Food Without Fear, and leave your best theory on food allergies. Does that sound good?
That sounds great.
Okay.
Let's do a couple of them. Let's do more than one.
Okay. 3.
Okay.
3 book giveaways to the top 3 best theories about food allergies. I have one. I'm going to save it for the comment section, and I hope I can win a book.
Awesome. Love it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Traci.
Oh my God, Ruchi, thank you again for writing this, and thank you for making it accessible to people. This is whatever. It's huge, and I'm so proud of you. I could just go on and on about how awesome this is.
Yeah, I love talking to you, Traci. You're so good for me, but you are equally as awesome. And thank you for helping so many people see what it's like, real world, real life, and sharing your stories and life with us right now means so much. So awesome, everybody.
Okay, thank you again. Everybody go out and get Food Without Fear. Just do it. It's so good. Oh, it's a beautiful cover too.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. All right, guys, thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.